to talk about my edit of Attack of the Clones, The Jedi's Apprentice. And in this video, I want to talk about the Jedi's apprentice himself, Anakin Skywalker. I'm going to start off with one of my least favourite crucial scenes. It is the love scene, where they talk about their feelings to each other in a very poetic way. Anyway, the scenes before the scene I dislike one of the most is the Camino scene, which is very nice. It's on Camino. It's very Star Warsy. That's basically all I'm going to say about it today.
We're leaving.
So then we transition into this establishing shot.
And when I got to them, we went into
And then
aggressive negotiations.
they talk
Aggressive negotiations.
about fighting with a lightsaber. And then he steals her food. And I have a big problem with this, because there's fruit next to him, and I know it's supposed to be flirting, but it just doesn't work as flirting. And also, look at the way that he cuts the fruit. It's half of the fruit is on one side, and it looks very chunky and nice to eat, and the other side doesn't look that great to eat. And then we continue, and then when it becomes CGI, it is nowhere near that size anymore. That's like a quarter. So suddenly we have Anakin stealing her food and then giving her back a quarter of it. That's not gentlemanly, and that's not cute. That's something you'd be annoyed at for someone for doing. So, generally, I just don't like this scene. And then the next scene that we have is this one.
From the moment I met you, all those years ago, not a day has gone by when I haven't thought of you. And now that I'm with you again, I'm in agony.
We have Anakin's
The closer I
poetry.
get to you, the worse it gets. The thought
And
of not being with you,
when I listen to this,
I can't breathe.
I get as uncomfortable as Padme. It's not nice to listen
I'm
to.
haunted by the kiss that you should never have given me. My heart is beating,
And here,
hoping that that kiss will not become a scar.
it gets to a point where it looks like he's becoming maybe slightly threatening to her.
You are in my very soul.
Unlike Anakin, in this film, Padme actually becomes in love with Anakin. Anakin has been in love with her for 10 years. Padme hasn't. And this is after she's noticed that he's growing up, and after that she has kissed him. So for him to act very threatening to her, or slightly threatening to her, depending on how you interpret it, it means that she's maybe likely to reconsider her feelings, because unlike Anakin, she's only had a crush on him for like a week maximum. So I don't like how he's being threatening to her.
Tormenting me. What can I do? I will do anything that you ask.
That's a lie. I'll tell you why later.
If you're suffering as much as I am, please tell me.
That's the first line that doesn't sound like weird poetry, and I think it's one of the best in the scene. It just sounds very natural.
I can't. We can't. It's just not possible.
Anything is possible, Padme. Listen to me.
No, you listen.
This might feel like a nitpick, but the spaces between their dialogue is very unrealistic for this kind of fight, because they're not having a discussion. Anakin is saying, I'm in love with you, and if you reciprocate those feelings, we should be in a relationship. Padme is saying, no, you're a Jedi, I'm a senator, we can never be in a relationship. So you have these two different opinions. They do not develop over the course of time. They already have these mindsets before the scene starts. So they have their reactions and their replies waiting. So as soon as the other person speaks, they can start immediately talking. They don't have to consider what they're going to say next. And also that helps to build the kind of argumentative undertones of this scene by having them kind of slightly overlap. So the fact that they didn't do that and they leave quite long pauses between the dialogue makes me kind of sad, because it feels like it's just something that the editor could have changed at any point and they just didn't.
We live in a real world. Come back to it. You're studying to become a Jedi. I'm a senator. If you follow your thoughts through to conclusion, it'll take us to a place we cannot go, regardless of the way we feel about each other.
Then you do feel something.
I will not let you give up your future for me.
You are asking me to be rational.
There's the lie. No, it's not.
That is something I know I cannot do.
That's the lie. He says that he'll do anything for her, and then says that he won't do that for her.
Believe me, I wish that I could just wish away my feelings. But I can't.
I will not give in to this.
Well, you know, it wouldn't have to be that way.
The way he delivers that line was so confusing to me that it took me several times to hear what he was saying. He says, well, you know, it wouldn't have to be that way. But the way he says it is, well, you know, it wouldn't have to be that way. And to me, a much more easier way of saying that would be, well, you know, it wouldn't have to be that way. So the it is in, like, the other part of where he puts the comma. And it just sounds really weird to listen to, as if he was directed by George to put a pause in there. George didn't say where. He did it at kind of random, without thinking about it, and George didn't correct him.
We could keep it a secret.
We'd be living a lie. One we couldn't keep even if we wanted to. I couldn't do that. Could you, Anakin? Could you live like that?
No. You're right. It would destroy us.
Hooray, we got there. Now let's look at my edit. So we have the same establishing shot, but then it goes straight into this scene. The whole thing of the pair is completely cut.
From the moment I met you, all those years ago,
So the same as the original.
not a day has gone by when I even thought of you.
And then we cut to Padme's face while Anakin continues to talk. So in this version, we get to see Padme's reaction while Anakin is still finishing his sentence. And unlike Anakin, Padme does have a lot of visual information to take in. She doesn't express what she's feeling, we see it. And so I wanted to keep that in, because I think that's one of the strongest parts of this scene. But it just saves time, because we don't have to wait until Anakin to finish the sentence to cut to a shot of Padme not saying anything. We can see the shot of Padme not saying anything while Anakin finishes his sentence.
If you're suffering as much as I am, please tell me.
And then we just cut straight to that. None of the poetry is needed, and I just cut it out.
I can't. We can't. It's just not possible.
Anything is possible, Padme. Listen to me.
No, you listen.
I added some J cuts in there, so the music, the dialogue rather, kind of just overlays slightly from shot to shot. So it will give this argumentative feeling that I was talking about earlier.
We live in a real world. Come back to it. You're studying to become a Jedi. I'm a senator.
You're asking me to be rational. I wish that I could just wish away my feelings.
So I cut out the bit where he says, I will do anything that you'll ask. And so then when she says, you should do this, and he says, you're asking me to be rational, it doesn't sound bad. And then I also cut out the bit where he says, I know that's something that I cannot do, because he doesn't need to state it that clearly. You can interpret what he means from what he's saying about wishing away his feelings.
But I can't.
I will not give in to this.
We could keep it a secret.
And then the line about, well, you know, it wouldn't have to be that way, that's cut out too, because it's just not needed. He walks away, has the thought that they could keep it a secret, then says it. And
You're
then
living a lie.
the rest of the scene plays out the same.
Wanted to.
I really feel
I
like
couldn't do that.
the more you cut out
Anakin, could you
of Anakin talking from this scene brings more weight to what he does say.
You're right. You would destroy us.
I even think that because you don't know precisely what Anakin's thinking, like you do in the original cut, it makes this look more interesting. Because he hasn't been outrightly threatening to Padme before this point, and that look could be interpreted as threatening, and having that mystery element to Anakin, I think is really important, because we know he turns to the dark side and becomes Darth Vader, but we don't know when. So having these moments where he looks slightly menacing this early on, I think is really important. If you want to help me feel less alone while I read at a movie which is over 15 years old, which has been done countless amount of times already, you can like, share and subscribe to help me feel like I'm more in a community.